It's Wednesday, that means it's DeFi day. Let's take a look at some DeFi charts here, which have gone from mega uber turbo bear about to fall off the table into the abyss to some life, mostly from a few select coins. But on DeFi perp on FTX for the entire year, aside from January, we've largely been within a pretty wide range, but the heart of it, the meat of it, is around 10K. Trend-wise, it did flip bearish below the cloud, below the 200. As long as this can hold throughout the early months of next year, we may be okay. But it is not fair to call this bullish until it's on the top side of this range, right? It's neutral at best here in the grand scheme of things. And trend metrics will help you make that decision further should this creep up higher. But yes, you could have won lows and been a hero and been okay. I think that's fine. Trading lows in a range, you know, what else are you going to do? If you want to take a trade, certainly always a viable option, just like shorting the top of this range or selling the top of this range is also going to be a very viable option. RSI resetting there to neutral at 50. Individually, though, a lot of these look mediocre. I was going to say look like mediocrity. Maker sitting just below this diagonal support, sitting near VPVR levels, below cloud, below 200. RSI semi-neutral. But again, this expectation is not bullishness, unfortunately. Even with the burning mechanic active on Maker, what you definitely don't want to see if you're bullish is this playing out as a head and shoulders or a descending triangle of some kind, both of which are not bullish by any means. So the safest, most conservative route would be to wait for a push above 3K again, even a higher high here at 3250. Now the most aggressive, highest risk play would just be to keep buying any sort of low down here. You've also now got the brewings of a October to present head and shoulders along with the previous. And I just don't like to see that. I don't like to think about or have to think about or worry about, is this bearish when I'm long? That's not a good feeling. It should not be wishy-washy. It should be obvious. Comp has been bearish, obviously, for many weeks now, below the 200, below the cloud. Never really recovered since May. It certainly in this cushion of volume down here at the yearly open lows, but it has retraced the entire year. Probably largely due to TVL incentives. That certainly doesn't help releasing all that supply. It helps the protocol, which is my favorite distinction in DeFi, protocol versus token. Protocol works great, use it all the time. Token is questionable in its existence, kind of along with all of DeFi. Great speculation potential, sure, but hard to say what the token is good for. Obviously, governance is always the fallback use case, but that isn't going to move the needle for price. Aave up slightly as well. There were no bull divs on this, also on the way down. Just mainly RSI and multi-year lows probably for Aave. Volume cushion much lower. Kind of just free floating here. There is on a lot of these charts a TK disequilibrium signaling oversold conditions as well, just like there was here. Far below the 200, far below the cloud. Now this isn't going to save you if you're long buying knives thinking, oh, this has got to bounce. This is oversold. This has got to bounce. Look at this. It's oversold, right? I've been in trades like that, and I can tell you it doesn't always work out. So yes, this did bounce this time, but that's no guarantee that these lows will hold. It's no guarantee that this is magically going to turn to bullish again. Anything above 300 is where we can start talking. And it's obviously just been a different beast since it got below the cloud, below the 200. I mean, there's a reason I use these as litmus tests. They are very strong for trend determination. SNX also fell off the table rather quickly. No bull div with a TKC clamp here. Far below the 200, far below this meaty volume node at 10. Because SNX is largely single collateral, it's always going to have these issues. Now, it does have ETH as collateral, but I don't know if that's enough to save it from these puking downtrends that it tends to get when it liquidates the 30 people left using SNX. So this doesn't look shortable, but it certainly doesn't look magically bullish as well. Uni, one of the few coins that did have a bull div on the way down. Trend metrics not helping you if you're bullish, and there's a whole lot of nothing until sub 5. So these lows don't hold, much like the opposite of January, right? We retrace new highs, retrace new highs, new highs, new highs, new highs, new highs. Could very easily see that on the way down in the opposite direction throughout 2022, as this sits now, as it does on most of DeFi. The expectation is lower lows. You can play low time frames all you want, but high time frames are telling you expectation lower lows based on the position of the 200 and the cloud relative to price. Sushi and Uni almost a carbon copy, and you can tell me that there was some C-suite rage quit nonsense on Sushi, right? It doesn't matter. You can tell me that Uni has the greatest volume of any DEX in existence right now. You'd have no idea. You'd have no idea that Sushi has an extremely low PE ratio. Doesn't matter. None of it matters. It's all largely just correlative, largely just speculation. There's no separation of identities here on technicals anyway. No bull div either on the way down here. There is a TKC clamp. So, if you want to be long, there are reasons to be long. I just don't like those reasons personally. I don't trust DeFi after being let down for 11 months. It's hard to get bullish when it's at lows, right? Maybe that's just me, but we've been sideways for 11 months, done a whole lot of nothing in a range. Now we're at range lows or below the range for many of these coins, and magically we're supposed to be bullish again. I just don't buy that. So low time frames do look decent for a bounce, but quarter time frames, if you're talking next 3 months, we would need to get back above all these trend metrics for me to get excited again. And here's a great example of that, because curve above the 200 above the cloud, held above the 200 back above the cloud now, looks completely fine. It's a different coin in the entire ecosystem compared to everything else. It already hit its measured move target based on the range. So the next thing you could do is measure this range high, this range low, assuming it's bullish, which this should lead to bullish continuation as we sit here today. Probably would measure to somewhere between 9 or 10 is my guess. But this looks fine for higher highs. BAL also making multi-month lows, actually broke the yearly open, retracing all of that, staying held below the 200 below the cloud. BAL would need to get back above 25 for bullishness again. I think a lot of this is TVL incentives. Just no reason to hold BAL other than trading it. And that really hasn't been good enough since May. Certainly hasn't been good enough since earlier in the year. So yes, it's at the middle of the range lows. If you want to buy that, that's up to you, right? But I would much rather buy a bull trend than guess at where this is going to hold lows. BNT also recently fell out of the cloud below the 200, below this ascending triangle potential, much like ZRX. So while not as bearish as some of this other stuff, it's certainly not on the bullish side of things, we'll put it that way. Huge volume cushion, sub 2, if this broadly does turn into a mega bear market in Q1, and anything above 5 would be good for bullishness, certainly. This also has a burning mechanic, and it may have helped it in January, but I don't know. It's hard to tell because everything was bullish in January. Everything got bullish all at once for DeFi, and then we had this May pullback, and then the layer 2 stuff took over, and DeFi was in the wayside because we had EIP 1559, and ETH fees are incredibly high. That's just kind of how the year's been, really. ETH fees need to come down in order for DeFi to do well. ZRX, much like BNT here, had been looking decently okay, and just got puked out the bottom there. Tons of support at 40 cents, but on trend, this is certainly bearish now. 1 inch looks probably one of the worst amongst them because it made a new all-time high a couple weeks ago, a month and a half ago maybe, and is now back below range lows, honestly. This was the range that it needed to hold, and now it's in this new established range from 2 to 4. This is just a massive avoid when I see stuff like this for me. Yes, you can be a hero, trade the range lows, have this thing pop back to 5 plus, but I'm not really a range trading individual. I'm more of a trend individual. And if you're buying down here, you better hope this holds. Otherwise, it's headed to the previous low at around 150. Link, man, what a journey it's been for Link since 2018. It was the darling of everybody and everything, the Marines. Then the Link team selling picked up late 2020, early 2021. Link did a kind of a whole bunch of nothing relative to the rest of DeFi, and it stayed tamped down post-May. Link team has stopped selling based on what I can see on chain. So that should be helpful for price if it's able to recover from here. Another classic example of love the protocol. Unfortunately, the coin is divorced from anything you need to do with the protocol on chain. This is the 1-year MA down here, 1-year MA multiplier up here, the 5x multiplier. You can see how it struggled to reach the midline in January and is certainly more in the buy zone now. It's hard to call this a buy when it's breaking multi-year rate of change, but the team halting selling certainly helpful for price here. CRO on the 12-hour, just because there's not enough data really to look at on the daily, to me looks Dunsky. Looks like Doge, looks like Shiba Inu. Massive rise up extremely quickly, trapped a bunch of people, and now these people are going to be panicked every day, looking when to sell. Most likely, tons of volume on the upside here at 70 cents. Even at 56, 57. I think this just needs time to be serious about it again. The market cap valuation kind of made little sense up here, but I would certainly watch all of the exchange coins into 2022 for bullish or bearishness. If there's a broad DeFi crackdown, KYC AML crackdown, FTX, Binance, FTT, BNB, CRO, certainly tradable setups, I'm sure, throughout 2022. Solana probably as neutral as it can get here in this range. And again, it's obvious. There's a reason I use the 200 in the cloud. It's certainly above the 200, but it is in the cloud. So you can see what happens when we get out of the cloud after being congested inside of it. And yes, this did have triple bottom, inverted head and shoulders, whatever you want to call this. So ideally you see a chart pattern again up here into Q2. Let's just let this thing calm down for a while. The bearish case is a potential head and shoulders into Q2. Where it sits, probably going to be fine. It's just neutral at the moment. Does not look like anything else in DeFi, really. And neither does Avax, neither does Luna. Luna making all-time highs today. The Ponzi that keeps on Ponziing. Cloud told you to get in August, told me to get in. I either ignored it or didn't see it, and it has not told you to get out this entire time. The TK cross has not occurred this entire time. So the cloud has been correct. The cloud is also usually correct. It's usually more correct than I am. Certainly, it's just people's interpretations of it. Avax did have a bearish cross the other day, but if this cross is bullish again, that's a long, right? It doesn't guarantee a 500% move every time. It just tells you, yeah, this is the setup, this is the trade. So that's what you're looking for on Solana, is a bullish Kumo breakout with a bullish TK cross. That's what you're looking for going into 2022 or Q1 2022. As with Avax, some of this stuff doesn't make sense to me as far as why it's priced the way it's priced. And if ETH fees remain high, these valuations are going to remain high because people are going elsewhere. It's just that simple. And you can see it on Avax and certainly on Luna. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. The trend is your friend, and happy trading.